tracking a potentially dangerous setup right now. Temperatures are climbing to 90 degrees across the south, adding fuel to the atmosphere. Meanwhile, a storm system is moving into the Midwest with damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. And that combination could lead to severe weather breaking out across the south. So in this video, I'm going to show you what you need to know about this system. So let's start off with our temperatures, and it's going to be very warm over the next couple weeks here, especially as we go into early to mid-April here. It's going to be above average for most of the country, although we do have a couple spots where it is below average. Places of the Midwest up into Minnesota, you guys are going to be below average temperatures, but mostly U.S. It's going to be very warm over here in the southeast and across the southwest. We're going to have well above average temperatures for the month of April. Let's take a look at our day one consecutive outlook here, and we have a slight risk all the way up from New York, leading down into places of Missouri. And then we have a tiny slight risk back into Oklahoma and Texas. This is for places like Detroit, Michigan, Indianapolis, Indiana, Cleveland, Ohio, St. Louis, Missouri, Toledo, Ohio. All of you guys are going to be in the threat for damaging winds, large hail, and even the possibility for a couple of spin-up tornadoes. So let's start off with our tornado risk. Really, it's going to be isolated only to the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic across places like Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. All of you guys are going to be in the threat for a 2% chance of tornadoes. I wouldn't rule out a couple of tornadoes, although our chance is not very likely. Our intensity of these tornadoes are going to be very high. So if we do get any of those tornadoes to start firing up here, we could get up to EF2 tornadoes. Our main threats are going to be wind and hail. Starting off with our wind damage, we don't have a large intensity, but we do have a high chance for damaging winds. We have a 15% chance, again, for all of you guys across the Mid-Atlantic and the Midwest, and then that little spot back down there in Texas and Oklahoma. Our hail, this time it's a little bit more to the Midwest, across places like Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, even pretty close to Chicago. They're not quite in Chicago, and even in Ohio, and then again down there in Oklahoma and Texas. So today it's not going to be as severe as tomorrow, because tomorrow we have an enhanced risk for places like Wichita, Kansas, Wichita Falls, Texas, Alton, Oklahoma, and Enid, Oklahoma. All of you guys are going to be in the threat for very severe weather, and our tornado risk is much higher. We do have a 5% chance for those tornadoes, and on that hatched area, we could see up to EF2 tornadoes possible. Tomorrow, I expect the most tornadoes to start firing off around 3 p.m. and ending around 8 p.m. So that's your time slot for these tornadoes to start firing off. Now for our wind, we do have a more severe threat for our wind damage. And our wind damage and our hail is going to be our main threat, with 30% chance for these damaging winds. And then we have a hatch risk, which means we could see wind gusts up to 74 miles per hour in these storms. So these storms are going to be very strong. What's going to happen is we're going to have these storms that are going to be discrete, and they are going to form into a line of storms, and that's going to cause our damaging wind. And with that comes our hail. I know it's almost identical to our wind damage, so same thing with you guys. We do have a hatch risk, which means we could see hail up to the size of 2.5 inches. That is about the size of a baseball. So we could be seeing some very large hail, and we have a 30% chance for that large hail. Looking at day 3, we do have a slight I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people like Chicago, Illinois, Indianapolis, Indiana, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Madison, Wisconsin, all of you guys are going to be in the threat. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a little enhanced risk near Chicago, because we're going to have these storms fire up around midday, and that's going to create the potential for supercells to develop, creating the potential for some of these tornadoes that may be possible. Taking a look into the future here at our day 4, we have a 15% chance for severe weather across the northern and mid plains, places like Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska. All of you guys are going to be in this threat for severe weather, and I will definitely be taking a look at this as we go through these next couple days. Taking a look at our temperatures over the next couple weeks, we could be getting up into the 90s in much of the south and the southeast, all the way up into the Midwest and the Northeast. And you can see some of those cold fronts coming through there, but then the heat really tries to crank up and really comes back, and we're just gonna get this pattern of cold air and then really hot warm air coming in all the way up into the 90s in some places. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a place in southern Texas get up to 100 degrees. So it is definitely going to be very warm as we get into April. With that heat, we have moisture. This is going to fire up those storms. And see, we do have a little bit of a dry line there. And this is going to create the potential for these lines of storms that are going to be moving across the south here. And that's going to really fire up some of that severe weather. So I think our pattern for the month of April is we're going to get these nice, warm, humid days, and then all of a sudden you're just going to see these storms start to fire up right in your backyard as you're going to the pool, and all of a sudden you're going to have this huge thunderstorm, and that's when you really need to take cover and you need to have your alerts to be prepared for these storms whenever they come. Most places are going to be getting up to the 60s for their dew points, and this is going to really fire up those storms, and these storms are going to have a lot of energy. Let's start by taking a look at our radar over the next little bit here. We are going to start off with some snow beginning over places like Colorado and New Mexico with a low pressure 995 over here. And then we have that rain that is going to be training over the mid-Atlantic across places like Ohio and Indiana. And then we have our moisture coming in from the Pacific Ocean. And as I play this out here, we can see some of that severe weather and even the possibility for a snowstorm and ice storm to develop across the Midwest. And right behind that is another low pressure system waiting to scoop some of that moisture. And guess what happens? It fires up more of these storms here across the plains, and this is going to bring a line of storms. This is going to bring with it a cold front, bringing in some colder, dry air to the south and southeast. See, we got another snowstorm / ice storm back up here in the Midwest. So you guys are going to be getting some severe weather right now, and then snowstorm and ice storm possibilities, especially in Minnesota and Wisconsin. All of you guys are going to be in the threat for some snow as we go into early to mid-April. Now, as I play this out more, it gets a little bit quiet for a little while, but then we have this tiny little system bringing some snow. You can see something off the coast there. Could be watching that. And this one kind of hovers for a little while. And then we get some more rain coming in here, bringing some more severe weather down to the south and the plains. And that's going to be training over there for a couple of days, actually. Let's start by looking at our surface-based cape. We could have some of that convective available potential energy hitting up into the 2,000, even into 3,000 joules per kilogram. And this is going to cause a lot storms to fire up back into Kansas and Oklahoma here. This is about 4 days out, and man, I'm seeing a lot of energy available for these storms to develop, and that's something I'm really going to be watching out for. I mean, we're getting it up into 3,000 joules per kilogram. That's way more than enough for these storms to develop, and I'm really worried about that. Look at our wind shear, and we do have a neutral trough here. This is going to be bringing the potential for moisture to come up. Now, this is not the best trough for bringing this severe weather. We do have a lot of wind shear that is at about a 60-degree tilt, but really back here into Missouri, Iowa, and Kansas, you guys are going to really have that vertical wind going against these storms moving to it, and that could stir up some of those tornadoes spinning the atmosphere here, and we're going to have a lot of wind shear available for these storms to develop. Speaking of storms, we're going to have a lot of supercell development, and we could see about a supercell scale of about 8 here. This is really going to create the potential for some of those spinning storms, which will create those tornadoes, as supercells are thunderstorms that have the ability to create tornadoes. And we're going to have a lot of supercells over here in southern Iowa and northern Missouri. I really do think you guys are going to have the highest threat for severe weather. I wouldn't be surprised if you got an enhanced risk or even a moderate risk, because some of this severe weather is really looking pretty bad. Taking a look at our total snowfall over the next week or so, we could be getting up into about a foot of snow across much of Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, and across the Rockies. Are going to have the chance for some snow to accumulate in many of these places. So if you like the snow, get ready, as we are going to have it coming for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching my video today. I will have another one out tomorrow morning, so make sure to like and subscribe. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.